Welcome back to Vuln Vibes, everyone. Ready for another deep dive? Today we're wading into some pretty murky waters, network security to be exact. We're looking at a recent disclosure that's got some serious implications. 8 zero-day vulnerabilities. Yeah, you heard that right, 8. And they were all found in, of all things, the Netgear WNR854T router.
And for those of you tuning in, the security pros, the folks who live and breathe MyArray, ATT, and CK and can practically map out a kill chain in their sleep, well, we're going to skip the 101 today. No need to rehash the basics. We're going straight to the juicy stuff, analyzing what these findings actually mean, like what trends are popping up and what this means for the big picture of security.
Exactly, yeah. So we're basing our deep dive on the work of let me make sure I get this right, Dylan.
Yeah.
Dylan, he really dug deep and uncovered these 8 vulnerabilities, all previously unknown, zero-day. Remember, in this, well, let's be honest, it's kind of a legacy device now, the Netgear WNR854T. It came out back in 2017, which in tech years is like ancient history.
Oh, absolutely. And the vendor, well, they basically washed their hands of it, no more support, which, as we'll see, makes this whole thing even more interesting.
Yeah, more like terrifying. But anyway, the point is, we're not just going to list out these vulnerabilities. We want to go deeper. What are they really telling us? What can we learn from this? What are the big takeaways for anyone trying to keep their network secure?
Right on. So let's break it down. Dylan, in his research, he neatly categorizes these 8 vulnerabilities. First up, we've got some good old-fashioned buffer overflows in, you guessed it, the UPnP service. Always a popular target, right? And we've got CDE 2024-54802. That's the msearch host. BOF, buffer overflow for those keeping score at home. The moment you see strap you mentioned, well, you know there's going to be trouble.
Oh, yeah. Instant red flags. It's like seeing someone juggling chainsaws at a picnic. Not good.
It's almost like a classic example. Like, haven't we learned by now? But nope. The msearch host header, wide open for remote code execution thanks to, surprise, surprise, a lack of bounds checking. And it just shows how even those vulnerabilities we think we've tackled, they just keep cropping up.
Like a bad penny. And then, of course, there's CVE 2024-54809, which is the msearch ST BOF. Same target, UPnP, same trigger, an msearch request. But this time, it's the ST header value they messed up.
Same story, different verse, really. This points to a bigger problem, like how the UPnP service handles data. Not great. No proper bounds checking when they copy that ST header value, which means, yep, you guessed it, memory corruption. And you know what that means.
Remote code execution. Party time for the attackers.
Ding, ding, ding. So yeah, we're starting to see a pattern here. UPnP not looking so good. Oh, and I can't forget CVE 2024-54880.
Oh, right. Set default connection service. BOF. I remember that one from the research. Dylan had a bit of a time with that one, right?
Yeah, he mentioned some environmental, what was it, dependencies? Something like that. Couldn't quite get it to work reliably.
So maybe not as big of a risk then.
Yeah, it's a good reminder that not all vulnerabilities are created equal. Just because it's a buffer overflow doesn't mean it's an instant game over. You gotta, look at the context, the specifics.
Makes sense. All right, so moving on. We hit a trifecta, a hat trick. 3 authenticated command injection vulnerabilities, starting with CVE 2024-54803. Now this one's a doozy. It affects the PPPoHMAC configuration. And the kicker is it's got that what's the word? Boot persistence.
Yeah, that's the nasty bit. They inject commands and get this, they survive a reboot. They get written to NVRAM, which is the non-volatile memory that stores the router's configuration.
So they're basically squatting in the router.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah.
And with root access, no less. It means cleaning this up is way more complicated than just, rebooting the router. This is an entrenched attacker, a real headache.
I'm starting to see why you called this a deep dive. We're in the Mariana Trench at this point. So what's next?
Oh, we've got CVE 2024-54804, which targets, let me see, one hostile name. Dylan said it was very similar to the PPP-PureMac one. Same root privileges, same boot persistence.
Deja vu all over again.
Pretty much. And that similarity, it's kind of a giveaway. It suggests there's a problem with how they're, sanitizing inputs across the whole firmware. And when both of them lead to boot persistence, well, it's not just about a one-time attack. It's about the potential for ongoing malicious activity.
Right. They're setting up shop. And then we have CDE 2024-54805, the SendMail authenticated command injection. This one uses, was the email notifications?
Yep. So this one's a bit more versatile. They don't have to wait for a reboot. If they're already logged in, they can just tweak the email address and those notification settings and bam, execute commands whenever they want.
So it's on-demand hacking.
You could say that, yeah. Of course, they still need to be authenticated, but it's a lot less obvious, a lot more repeatable. Sneaky. And then there's CVE 2024-54 which is, if I remember correctly, the authenticated web shell.
That's the one. Located at cmd.cgi. 515C50. Not that the address matters much to most folks, but yeah, it's an authenticated web shell, so, they the direct line to the router's command line.
So it's like giving them the keys to the kingdom.
Yeah, pretty much. Makes it a whole lot easier to do whatever they want once they're in.
Okay, now for the main event, the one that really grabbed my attention. CVE 2024-54807. This is the one that's unauthenticated, right?
Yeah, that's the big one. Unauthenticated command injection in the let me see, the upend P binary, add port mapping functionality, specifically no authentication. That's a big deal.
For those who might not be as familiar with UPnP, it's like a way for devices on a network to, discover each other and configure themselves. Exactly. It's supposed to make things easy, convenient, but when there's no authentication, well, it makes it easy for the attackers too. Anyone on the same network, boom, they can exploit this. And if UPnP is exposed to the internet, well, then it's open season.
So pretty bad then.
Oh, it's bad. And what makes it worse is that, according to Dylan, exploiting it is like child's play. Something about how they concatenate arguments passed to a system call.
So you've got this vulnerability that anyone can use, and it's easy to use. Not a good combo.
Not at all. A recipe for disaster, really.
Okay, so we've gone through all 8 of these vulnerabilities. My head's spinning a little bit. What's the big takeaway? What are our listeners, the security pros out there, what do they really need to know?
All right, let's distill it down. The big picture. First, these vulnerabilities weren't found in some cutting-edge device. This is the Netgear WNR854T. End of life. Unsupported.
A dinosaur, basically.
Exactly, and that's a huge problem. These old devices, they often miss out on critical security updates. They're easy pickings for attackers, and let's be honest, for researchers too. But it means there's this whole, shadow world of vulnerable devices out there just waiting to be exploited.
Like a ticking time bomb.
Second, the fact that we're still seeing buffer overflows and command injections. I mean, come on, these are classic vulnerabilities. We've been studying these for decades, and yet they keep showing up.
So what, are developers just not getting the message?
It makes you wonder, right? Like, how rigorous is the testing, the code review? These aren't new problems, but they're still causing massive security headaches. It's like they forgot to learn from, history.
Right. And then there's the difference between the authenticated and unauthenticated vulnerabilities.
Yeah.
That's a big one, right?
Oh, yeah. That's key. I mean, look at CVE 2024-54807, the UPnP one. No authentication. That's like leaving the front door wide open. Anyone can walk in. But if you've got proper authentication, well, at least there's a lock on the door. It's still a problem, but it's a smaller problem.
So authentication is a must-have.
Absolutely. And then there's that boot persistence. I mean, with the PTP, PRMAC, and one host name vulnerabilities, attackers, they're not just visiting, they're moving in. It's not enough to just reboot the router. You've got to go deeper. You've got to really clean house.
That persistence, it just makes everything so much harder. And then, of course, there's Netgear's decision not to patch this.
Yeah, I mean, from a business perspective, it kind of makes sense. It's an EOL device. They're not making money off it anymore. But for the people who are still using this router, well, they're stuck.
It's a tough spot for them. It also shows how important it is to keep your devices updated, right?
Absolutely. If there's a patch, install it. If it's EOL, well, maybe it's time to think about an upgrade.
And this whole disclosure process, Dylan tried to do the responsible thing, but in the end, he had to go public.
Yeah, it's a tough call. You want to give vendors time to fix things, but you also don't want to leave users vulnerable. It's a balancing act, and unfortunately, sometimes it means going public even when there's no patch in sight.
Okay, so to sum it all up, we've got these 8 zero-day vulnerabilities in this old Netgear router. But it's not just about this one device. It's about what this tells us. We've still got problems with legacy devices, with basic vulnerabilities, with authentication, with persistent threats.
Exactly. It's a wake-up call. And this leads to, I think, the most important question for our listeners. And it's a tough one. Given all this, how do you, as security professionals, how do you protect against the vulnerabilities we don't even know about yet? How do you mitigate the risks of those countless legacy devices out there? It's not just about patching anymore. It's about rethinking your whole approach. How are you segmenting your networks? How are you managing device life cycles? And what are you doing to compensate for those devices you just can't patch? It's about being proactive, about anticipating threats, about building a security framework that's resilient adaptable, and frankly, a little bit paranoid.
Paranoid.
Maybe not paranoid, but definitely aware. Aware of the risks, aware of the limitations, and always, always thinking a few steps ahead.
Good advice. On that note, we'll wrap up this deep dive. Thanks for joining us on Vuln Vibes, and stay safe out there.
Stay vigilant.